I think the best thing that really ever happened to me. So when I started my own business, it was all me. And then when I acquired Peachtree, it was a new space that I, as I said, I didn't know anything about virtual assistants. And I said, the only way we can get this deal done is if your whole team comes kind of, plug and play, if you will. So I was able to kind of put my ego aside there, because not knowing the space, I said, listen, I need to lean on this team who's been doing this for, the company had been around for 8 years at that point. So that was really the best thing that had ever happened to me, because I was able to kind of put myself aside and just say, hey, I need to learn like a sponge from these people, everything that they're doing. And they'd already been great at it. And it wasn't a case where the business was failing or anything like that. It was just the previous owner was, it was time for her to get out, and she wanted to do something else. So that was, I kind of got put in that position, and I'm glad that I did, because it really let me, trust and depend on that team to work in a space that I wasn't familiar in, and could really lean on them.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is John Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we're going to talk about scaling with the right people. You know your business won't be where you really need it to be unless you're willing to let go of the work and hire people. And scaling with the right people is the key. If you hire the wrong people, your world will be filled with stress and unmet expectations and a lot more problems and challenges. And one of the reasons I wrote a book about this called Tough Conversations, or How to Have Tough Conversations, is because there are so many people problems in businesses. But when you hire right and you onboard them and you delegate and you lead them, which is the topic for today's conversations, all four of those aspects, it will help you become the kind of leader that is able to hire people and able to step out of the day-to-day work as much as possible so that you can be the leader that your team is craving. Our special guest today is John McKenna. He is the CEO of the Peachtree VA. Peachtree VA is an onshore VA service. Sorry, I got tongue-tied there. He also is the founder of and CEO of the Emerald Group Consultants. They do executive placements. All of this to be said is we're going to talk about scaling with the right people. And you start with the right people, and then you move into how do we delegate them, how do we lead them. All of that is unpacked into today. What I really like about it is just some of the details we bring in are probably new to a lot of leaders. And so just check in to see where you can learn and be a better leader. My name is John Hammett. I'm an executive coach, CEO coach specifically, and we have leadership development working with more Inc. 5000 level companies than anyone else in leadership development. I share all this with you not to brag and whatnot, but we've understood over the last 12 years the different patterns and the different cycles and the chaos of growth-oriented companies, and really my coaching is exclusive to growth-oriented companies. So if you are growing, if you have some current challenges, if you have a team issue, if you have a strategy issue, if you have something that's standing in your way, your best bet is to have a conversation with someone that maybe can help you see a new perspective. With a new perspective, you can actually see new strategies and execute at a different level. You might even realize a leadership blind spot. I've been really good over the years of helping founders like yourself find that blind spot, identify it so that they can move forward. If you're curious about that, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is send me an email. It's very simple, gene@genehammett.com, and we would get on the phone, talk about your business. I will not sell you anything, I promise. If you wanted to work with me, it'll be a later conversation where we built some trust, but this conversation really is about you getting clear about what's next, prioritizing, letting go of the things that you need to let go of, and then you may just take that and execute it. You don't need me. But if we can help you, we'll discuss the process at the end of that call. That's how it works. Just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Now here's the interview with John. Hey there, John. How are you?
Good, Gene. How are we doing today?
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation. Tell us about your business, Peachtree VA.
I will, certainly. First, thanks for having me on, Gene. You've been doing this for a long time, over 1,000 episodes. And in this day and age when everybody has a podcast, it's great to be talking to somebody that's one of the OGs in the space. So appreciate you connecting with me. But so Peachtree VA is my business. It was a business I acquired about 3 years ago, actually. Just had the anniversary a couple of days ago. So we are a staffing firm. So we staff virtual assistants, VAs, if you will. And ours are a little different. We're United States-based virtual assistants, and in the virtual assistant space, there's a lot of ways you can go with it. There's many use offshore VAs at a different price point. Ours are all U.S.-based and heavily vetted. We're the people that we bring into our organization are the face of our business, if you will. So we're very cognizant of that, and we only bring in the best. So we work with busy leaders out there to help them delegate and get things off their plate.
I'm sure a lot of people could use those services. Just to put the full context out there, the reason why we actually connected is because you have another business. I think you have probably multiple businesses if you're like me. The Emerald Group Consultants was on the Inc. list. You guys grew incredibly over the last few years, almost 300% growth. Tell us just a little bit about the Emerald Group Consultants.
Yeah, so the Emerald Group is my background is a recruiter and headhunter by trade. So I started that about 6 years ago. And, it was something I always wanted to do. I wanted to work for myself, which was, it's been very rewarding. So, with that growth, it came along with acquiring Peachtree VA, and, they kind of all roll up under the Emerald Group umbrella. So it's been a great journey. Starting a business is wildly different from acquiring a business. And I've certainly learned a lot through both.
Well, I think this is going to be a great conversation because you wouldn't get where you are if you tried to hold on to every little aspect of the business and micromanage. You've learned to let go, hire people, delegate. So tell us a little bit about your approach to creating the kind of businesses that you have today.
Well, yeah, when I came across Peachtree, I was actually out there looking for an assistant, and I didn't know if I wanted to have somebody in my office as a true admin, kind of old school, if you will. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole of the virtual assistants, which I found very intriguing. I didn't even know that model was out there. So I was kind of at that place and as an owner that I was just doing way too much in the business. I was, doing every little thing out there. I was kind of a control freak like a lot of us business owners are. And I realized I just needed to kind of get some things off my plate. And we say it all the time, you want to work on the business and developing the business rather than working inside the business and doing every little thing. When there are a lot of tasks that you can, as an owner, that you can, kind of delegate and outsource to somebody else who's probably actually far more efficient at it than I know that they were than I was. So when I kind of got that, when I got a lot of those tasks off my plate, I found just the whole business ran much smoother.
Well, I have VAs. I love the fact that they are good at some things I don't want to do.
Exactly.
They are good at some things I can't do. All the background production for the podcast is done through VA. So I really have leveraged this for more than 10 years. And I think it's incredible for people to start, at least to have a VA as an assistant. I almost think that every executive should have this assistant, whereas I don't know what the percentages are out there. What do you think the percentages of executives running businesses that are less than 100 million that have assistants?
I think it's a lot lower than you think, and it's certainly a lot lower than it should be. I mean, the key is having the right assistant. I mean, that's the real key. Because delegation is like a muscle. You have to work it. You have to exercise it in order for it to be successful. And you really have to gain the trust of your assistant. Because again, as I said, it's hard to let things go off your plate because you have that ego. You think only maybe I can do this, but it's once you do it, it's very freeing, and it's something that you certainly have to work on. It doesn't come overnight.
So going back to, you found Peachtree VA, you bought it because you were looking for a VA.
Yep.
What were some of the mindsets that you had to shift in order for you to hire a VA?
Again, I think it's control is the biggest thing. I mean, anybody who starts a business, no matter, like, at least with me, I was the only person in the business for I think the first 6 or 8 months. So I was doing everything from payroll to QuickBooks to all that, and I had just gotten used to that. And it's an exercise we do with our potential clients all the time that have never used a VA before. If you really just go through your calendar on a weekly or monthly basis, and if you can see everything that you're doing on there, you'd be amazed at how much is in there that you could delegate to somebody else who could hopefully do it more efficiently and better than you. So that was my biggest thing. It was just kind of letting go of things and having the confidence in the right people to know that they're going to get this job done. Because listen, this is their career as well, generally, and they're good at what they do. But you have to have that trust into them and let it go.
Now, John mentioned the word control. Most leaders would not say that they have a control problem at a surface level. But if you dig deep into this, they will say that they want to control the outcome. They want to control the, getting to the goal. They want to control the process. They wouldn't say they want to control people, but we all know there's micromanagers out there whose desire is to control people because they know best. And this is not the best brand of leadership or style of leadership. You want to be able to rise up through the 5 levels of leadership, something I've created for my business. I've talked about it in other episodes. If you want a diagram and a little quick training, absolutely for free, no pitch involved, send me a request for the 5 levels of leadership to my email, gene@genehammett.com, and I'll give it to you, and it'll help you go to the next level. Now back to John. It's so hard. I know I've been there. You wrestle in your mind, I can do it better and faster. And it's a trap because it leads to you working more hours, which we already know that most CEOs are probably working more than they should be. They're not sleeping as well because they're carrying a lot more stress, and they are trying to work in those extra little hours like after dinner when taking time away from family. Would you add anything to that, John?
Yeah, I would say, well, listen, I think the best thing that really ever happened to me. So when I started my own business, it was all me. And then when I acquired Peachtree, it was a new space that as I said, I didn't know anything about virtual assistants. And I said, the only way we can get this deal done is if your whole team comes kind of, plug and play, if you will. So I was able to kind of put my ego aside there because not knowing the space, I said, listen, I need to lean on this team who's been doing this for the company had been around for 8 years at that point. So that was really the best thing that had ever happened to me because I was able to kind of put myself aside and just say, hey, I need to learn like a sponge from these people, everything that they're doing. And they'd already been great at it. And it wasn't a case where the business was failing or anything like that. It was just the previous owner was, it was time for her to get out and she wanted to do something else. So that was, I kind of got put in that position, and I'm glad that I did because it really let me, trust and depend on that team to work in a space that I wasn't familiar in and could really lean on them.
Now that it's been 3 years later, you looking back at the whole VA thing, how many of those thoughts you had initially were just worries that never came to fruition?
That was the majority of them, Gene. I'll tell you. I mean, you know as well as me and any business owner listening. If you're like me, if you're type A, if you've got all those things running through your head, that's the case for most of them. I mean, the mountains we make out of molehills, that happens quite often. And yeah, looking back on it, it's the truer words have never been said.
So how do you select the right VA in your opinion? Because I know that there's lots of different personalities out there, a lot of different skill sets and approaches. You're coming also from the experience of doing real searches for, strategic thinkers and leaders and whatnot with your executive search firm. So how do you feel like people should be selecting VAs?
I think the biggest thing is skill set. I mean, there are, especially I know how it works in our organization at Peachtree VA for sure. I mean, our initial match is based on skill set. I mean, there is, if you come to us and you've got a real need for, social media or something like that, I mean, we're going to match you with somebody who that's their background, where they've done it before. I think, personality is definitely, definitely a big piece of it. But I think if you're good people working in, towards the same thing, I mean, your personalities are, as long as the good work is being done and you trust each other, those personalities can mesh. I mean, we all know that there's a lot of different personalities that we work with in business that they may not be the same as ours, but it's, you learn kind of how to manage that. But I think, with the VA, it's I think skill set and what your biggest need is, if you can tackle that off the bat, I mean, that's the way we start our matching process for sure.
Do you factor in their company values or any other like attitude approaches beyond skill set?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's, when we're talking to a potential client, we go up and down, like, we scour their website. We see what their company culture is like. When we have that initial intake call, we really try to find out what's most important to them. I mean, that is key. And they, we're not going to match them with one of our VAs that we know may not have the same type of values. I think it's, on the surface, you certainly have to align and kind of see the world the same way. And we certainly try to be cognizant of that when we're going through our matching process.
We're having a conversation about scaling with the right people, and certainly hiring is one of them. But the next thing is, sort of onboarding them. Do you have any kind of secrets to onboarding someone that you feel like speeds them through the process?
Well, I always say, always over communicate. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I talk to people all the time, and whether it's my executive recruiting business or it's the VA business, a lot of times that gets lost. You get somebody in the chair, you get a new person in there, and you forget about it. I mean, that's it's easy as recruiters too to place somebody and then move on to the next one. But we've got an SOP in place to make sure we stay diligent and have certain touch points over the first X amount of months to do that, because again, if you can't just expect somebody to come in and just know everything. You really have the onboarding process is one of the things that many companies get wrong, and a lot of the reason for that is just because of lack of communication. So you really have to be diligent about that and make sure you're over communicating throughout the whole process.
Now, John's been talking about hiring the right person. I want to add my 2 cents in here. Skill fit is an absolute requirement. If you have someone that needs to be a programmer or someone that runs a sales process or someone that does marketing, you want to make sure they have the right skills. I don't think that you have the patience or the time to actually train people with no skill whatsoever. If you do, then albeit. If that's your business where you take in people who are completely green outside your industry, I've seen this work. It can work, but it does take time. When you get it working right, it is spectacular because you can bring in people who don't have the bad habits. But for the most part, we all want people that have the skill set, but you also have to look beyond just the skills. Is this person a good fit for the culture or values of the company? Because if they are out of alignment with their values, you just take something as simple as they're reactive and you really want them to be proactive. If they're not naturally a proactive person, you will feel frustration and you will not have a good experience with that employee. So you want to make sure you have questions in the selection process where you and your team are being able to indirectly tune into what the values are that are most important for the role, and some of them are just across the company. That's my 2 cents here, what I would add on selecting the right person. Back to John. I know one of the things I like to do when I bring on a new team member, and it's usually about the first month, and it may be overkill, so you can say there's a better way to do this, and I'm open to hearing that, John, is I'll meet with them at 15 minutes at the end of the day. Just see what they did that day, see if they had any questions, see where if they're getting stuck, and then make sure they understand the priorities for tomorrow. Sometimes it goes longer than 15 minutes, sometimes it's only 10, but do you have a different approach for that over communication in your SOPs?
I don't think that's overkill at all. I think that's I can tell you if I was your new team member or your VA, I would thank you for that. I think that's I think especially at the beginning. I mean, there's a point when you're not doing that at some point, obviously. But what I think if you can have that honest, open dialogue, and especially on a daily basis, I mean that would go a long way with your new hire. That would make them feel included and feel like they're like they're on the same page as you, which is invaluable to me. So I think you're spot on there, Gene.
Well, let's go to the next phase, which is ideally we can delegate to them. And I know there's different approaches to this. What is your core principles of delegation the right way?
Delegation, I think the right way, and everybody has different types of communication styles. So every leader, some are very direct about it. Some want they want their VA to be a little bit more of a critical thinker and come up with things on their own, and that's great. And our VAs can certainly do both, but I think you need to kind of look inward as yourself as a leader and be able to let them know and communicate to them. This is kind of how I work. I'm going to tell you these X amount of things to do on a daily, weekly basis, and we're going to do it. Or I want to give you a little bit of rope here, and I want you to kind of go out and show me what you can do as a critical thinker and as an integral part of this team. So as long as you're upfront about it, I don't think there is any wrong answer there. I think there's as long as you are communicating to your team members and your VA specifically the way you want things done. And the worst thing you can do is just not have any communication and expect things to be done, and then a month into it and you're looking for results when there was never any guidance. I mean, that I see that quite frequently, and that's unfortunately that happens. But it's again, always erring on the side of over communication. And if you do that, then you learn each other better. You learn each other's cadences, if you will, and that really sets you up for a successful partnership.
Again, we're talking about scaling by hiring the right people. And I really wanted to ask you this as we follow up, is leadership. What are your principles and your ways of leading this new VA that you brought on board
I would say, the biggest thing is trust. You hired, either whether it's with your team members or with the VA bring someone on board. You hired them for a reason to do certain things, to complete certain tasks, and you really have to. The biggest thing is just having the trust in that person to let them go out there and do their job. I've been extremely lucky with my team here, both at the Emerald Group and Peachtree VA, where we're all different people. We're very diverse, but we're all rowing in the same directions. We do everybody. It's amazing how different people, how we learn differently, how we do things differently, but we all have the same goals in mind, and we're all going in that same direction with the same common goals. And as long as you can realize that as a leader and know people aren't maybe going to do everything the same way that you're going to do it, as long as you can, be cognizant of that, I think that if you keep the trust in your people and keep that open dialogue, then you're set up for nothing but success.
All this is pretty good, but I'm looking to go a little bit deeper with you on leadership. Is there anything that you feel like is unique to the way you run your businesses that allow you to get the success that you've had?
I would say, yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't, I never set out to reinvent the wheel in terms of leadership, though. But I think if you talk to any of my people, they will say that I do things the right way. You mention all the time about having uncomfortable conversations. You wrote a book on it for that. That's one of the things I kind of pride myself on, and I do it. I'm very direct, but I certainly like to let people know where I stand with them, and I think that's very important to do as a leader. But again, you have to do it with empathy. You have to. I think any of my people that work with me and for me would say that I really am invested into them personally as well as professionally. So again, I don't think that's anything earth-shattering, but I just try to be a good person at the end of the day, and see things from other people's point of view and treat them the way that they want to be treated.
It may not be unique, but it's also not as common as it should be.
I believe me, I know, and I hear that from things that sometimes things that I do as a leader when I'm having conversations with my team, and they, I've had a few of them thank me for the way I've handled things. And to me, it's just second nature. I guess I was raised the right way, but it's, it's amazing how many people don't operate in that fashion.
And not that this is a commercial, but everyone sees, if you're watching the video behind me, there's a neon sign that says How to Have Tough Conversations. That's the name of the book that John mentioned. And the interesting thing about it, and you haven't read it yet, I'm going to send you a free copy, John, for being on the show, is the framework inside there is based on the word empathetic. There's 10 letters in the word empathetic. I had to check the spelling because I'm an engineer. But we created the framework so that you have sort of a mnemonic to help people that are going through the process to do it more effectively. So if anybody wants to check out the book, more than welcome to do that. I'll send you a copy for free, John.
I can't wait.
I am really excited to have you on the show. That's our time here today. We talked about scaling your company by hiring the right people. And so thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom.
Gene, it was a pleasure. It was great to be on. Enjoyed the conversation, and thanks again for having me.
Wow, another great interview that we had here. I'm really excited about being able to share with you interviews like this. I will mention that he talked about the book, How to Have Tough Conversations. What I like about this book is it's very tactical. If you struggle with any aspect of a tough conversation or a people problem, then you want to make sure you pick up this book, look at the frameworks inside there, and fill in the gaps. There's lots of little tactics that you can just steal from the book, put in play immediately, see if they work, get feedback. And what I found is the people that read the book love it. So I think you'll appreciate How to Have Tough Conversations. I want to thank John here for being on the show, sharing his wisdom, and also to remind you that if we can help you in any way through leadership development or executive coaching, CEO coaching, we're here to help you. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of growth thinking. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.